Welcome in everybody to today's Tech Tuesday. Today's topic is going to be reporting and analytics within Conference Tracker. Today's presenters are going to be myself, Garrett Effers. I'm a software support representative for CT, as well as Chad Blodgett, our business development manager. And of course, we do these Tech Tuesdays every third Tuesday of the month. We meet at 1 p.m. Eastern, and typically what we do in these sessions is we go over any Conference Tracker announcements that we have. We go through our tech talk with our Conference Tracker experts, and then at the very end we do a live Q&A session to answer any of your questions about today's topic or CT in general. Before we begin, just a couple things to go over. We will be sending everyone the recording link after the presentation. And as I'm sure you've already noticed, everyone will be muted while the presentation is in progress. If you have any questions at any time throughout the presentation, you can submit those questions in chat. And to submit those questions, we're going to click the red or orange arrow in your GoToWebinar menu, and then you're going to click the little white arrow next to questions, and then go ahead, type your question in that box and hit enter. We will either type these answers out to you live, or we'll save those questions till the end and read them aloud for everyone to benefit. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just jump right into today's topic, reporting and analytics. And first, we have to ask ourselves why reporting is so important. And these reporting details, these analytics from your event, this is just absolutely crucial to organizers for many different reasons. Of course, everyone wants to measure their success, right? We all like a nice pat on the back telling us we did a good job, but it's also important to identify the trends that we see throughout our event and maybe the areas that we could improve upon for next year or maybe our event in the fall, and just optimize the attendee experience during that time with us. As well, we're looking for audience insights and different feedback analysis, whether this be a percentage or just different graphs that we're seeing along the way to really give us a visual representation of the data that we're seeing. So to start us off, we're going to talk about our dashboard analytics. You're going to be seeing these as soon as you log into Conference Tracker right there on the home page. And this is going to include just a nice snapshot of your event as a whole. It's going to give you your number of sessions, your different roles and users throughout the system, as well give you some very interesting information as to how many attendees have logged into the app or to the portal in general, how many leads licenses have been assigned or leads app logins have been completed for our exhibitors. As well, it's going to give us the amount of attendee and exhibitor registrations as they're going on. You're going to see how many have been done in the last hour, just today, and then of course all of them since you've opened registration. As well, if you're doing check-in at your event, we're going to see the amount of attendee check-ins. And as you go through your event, you'll notice when people are coming to check in and when everyone seems to arrive at your event. As well, we have our registration analytics before your event, right? Where we want to know how many registrants are we going to have, maybe the answers to certain demographic or just gathering information questions that we have in our registration form. We can also figure out our license level amounts through these analytics and maybe the membership types that they selected. As well, we have the prospect system within Conference Tracker so that you can send email notifications to your prospective attendees or exhibitors from maybe last year's event. And in these registration analytics, you can really see the marketing campaign performance and how those emails performed with the people that you're sending them to. We also have contact information analytics within CT, and this is going to be the actual individual attendee demographic questions that are answered. First name, last name, their personal information. And this is a great thing to see at the end of the event, maybe before you're planning next year's registration. Maybe you notice that a lot of people weren't comfortable with giving a street address. So maybe we remove that question from next year's registration and just make the registration process a little quicker for them, one less question to answer. But you'll also notice the different numbers and percentages of your attendees that gave this information. So I've noticed in past events, just working as a support rep, it is very easy to get a person's title and company. People want to talk about the job that they represent because typically when they go to your events, they're networking. They're trying to make those connections within their field, within their industry. But some people aren't comfortable with giving out their phone number or their street address, or maybe the city they live in, but they'll give you the state. So by looking at these analytics, we can determine what information we want as organizers and maybe make those questions required. If people didn't give us a lot of their states and cities, we can make those questions required next year to improve the value of the leads data that is captured by our exhibitors. As well, we have attendance analytics, and this is something that you would look at after the event. Here you can see your amount of attendee check-ins per day. So if you're doing a daily check-in with your attendees, this gives you a better breakdown of how many attendees came per day in a very quick visual method. As well, your amount of session scans per day and per hour. So maybe you notice a lot more people came to your morning sessions than did your afternoon sessions, and they may have found more value in those. So maybe we stack more sessions of this type in that morning slot. As well, you'll be able to see your most and least popular sessions. Maybe you're separating your event by room. So you're doing training sessions in one room and professional develop sessions or license accreditation sessions in another room. And this will give you a very quick visual as to where the most interest was on a room basis. If everybody wanted the training room, but not too many people went to the license accreditation, maybe we need to increase the amount of training classes that we're holding at our event. As well, you'll be able to see the leads captured per company. So how many leads did the entire company, every exhibitor, rep, or admin within that company capture in total? As well, we have our social activity analytics. This is a little bit different than what we saw in the attendance, and where this is the actual posts, likes, comments, social interactions that are made on the social wall for not only the event, but the individual sessions. So you can see the number of interactions per day, per hour, but also see your trending sessions. And a question I get asked a lot in support is what the difference is between trending sessions and most popular sessions. Most popular sessions are going to be the ones that had the most attendance. The trending sessions are going to be the ones that had the most social interaction. So more attendees made more social posts or took more pictures or posted more comments during that session, and that's what made it trending. As well, you're going to be able to see the views and bookmarks on a per session and per exhibitor basis, as well as a per user basis. So you'll be able to see how many people bookmark certain sessions that they really wanted to see, or maybe they were building their own schedule of interest, and it'll help you determine a lot of which sessions people found the most interest in through your itinerary. As well, you're going to be able to see your most active and engaging users. These are the people who are posting the most, taking a bunch of event photos and putting them on your social wall, or congratulating your presenters, or asking follow-up questions for the session that maybe didn't get answered during the Q&A. Maybe they ran out of time. As well, we're going to be able to see our leads analytics within CT. Now, this is of course going to deal strictly with the leads app, but this is going to allow you to see your leads collected per day, by rep, how many leads were captured by the hour, as well as your total leads generated. And this one is really fun for me because it's so disproportionate to your amount of attendees. You may have only 300 attendees, but you had a total lead amount, total leads generated amount of over 2,000, which means that everybody, the average number of leads per exhibitor, is just astounding to see the amount of networking that's being done on your exhibit floor. We also have session evaluation analytics. These session evaluations, these are going to be the 5-star opinion-based questions that we ask that are attached to each individual session. A lot of times, just like you see in the screenshot here, this is used to evaluate the presenter, or maybe the usefulness or the organization, the content of the session itself. And this is going to allow you to view the average rating per session and per question across all of your attendees super quickly, as well as give you the percentage difference here as to the average, how this session rated compared to all of your other sessions. Well, this one was plus 3% higher than your average rating for this question across your sessions. We also get to see our attendance per attendee. This is going to be our attendance per session, and this is going to be on an individual basis. So if you want to go in and see specifically how many minutes Adam Sandler spent in each class, maybe if they completed the session evaluation or not, this is a great way to see very quickly what was the total amount of credits this person earned. Maybe it was too high and we need to cut back. Maybe there were extra attendance logs that were scanned by accident that we need to take a look at. And you can also see the average amount of time that these individuals spent in their sessions. In this case, for our demo account, Adam Sandler spending an average of 47% of the time in each session. So not quite 100. Maybe he doesn't deserve credit for every session, but he did attend. Maybe he changed his mind and during one session and decided to go to another one and stayed for that entire session. These different use cases can apply to anybody. As well, while we're talking about attendance, we're also able to see our attendance stats per session. So looking at a session based, how many attendees came to this session, what was the total average time across everybody, what was the amount of minutes and percentage spent in each session. This is great for us as an organizer. Maybe we need to dial back our attendance requirements. If people are only going to spend an average of 50, 60%, maybe a 75% attendance requirement is too high, or maybe a 50% attendance requirement is too low, and we need to increase that number for next year. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Chad, and he's going to show us where we can find all these analytics within Conference Tracker.
Great, thank you, Garrett. I'm just trying to get this going. Here we go. All right, perfect. Well, thank you again, Garrett. So I'm going to take us through the software. We're going to go through a few of those analytics and take a look at some of those reports as well. Garrett, can you see my screen? Just to make sure.
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. Great. So I'm going to start off on our dashboard, kind of where Garrett has started as well. So right on your own dashboard, you're able to see things like how many attendees have registered so far, how many last hour, how many today. Same thing for exhibitors. Also, how many attendees have checked into the event, and then how many attendance swipes have been taken. So if you're not familiar with the check-ins, this is a process where when the attendee comes in, it could be each day of your event, or it could be day one of your event. But you can actually check the attendees in at the registration booth when they get there day one, or again each day, and we can get a number of total check-ins, and then even how many have checked in today. Same thing with swipes. Swipes are just your scans at sessions. It's just telling you how many attendance swipes you've had at the event, as well as in the last hour and today as well. Now, if you click on View All Reports, you can actually go into the actual report itself, and you can see all of the attendees information, or the scans or the check-ins, so we can see all that data, again, straight from the dashboard. Now, the next section has actually been fairly important as well. So not only can we see things like total number of attendees that are in the system, how many sessions do we have, presenters in the system, but some of the newer analytics, and they've been out for quite a while, I think are a little bit more telling, such as like the attendee app logins. So one question I always get is, or I always used to get is, how do I know how many attendees actually utilized the app last year to know, maybe we should do a new marketing campaign to let attendees know, like, hey, we're using the attendee app, and maybe some new ways of letting the attendee know that they need to download the app to view the event itself. So right on your dashboard now, you have your attendee app logins. This, either whether it's before your event or after your event, gives you an idea of how many attendees actually utilized the app or the portal login. So for example, if you notice, maybe you're a couple days before your event, and or maybe it's day one of your event, and you notice not many attendees have actually logged into the app, maybe you would send out an email or a text message, something to let attendees know, maybe when they come to the registration booth for check-in, we're letting them know, hey, please download the app. This is how you're going to view the sessions. This is how you're going to bookmark and create your itinerary. This is how you're going to see exhibitor information, presenter info, how you're going to connect and network with others. Same thing goes for the leads licenses. If you're using our lead retrieval, it actually lets you know like how many leads licenses you have total, how many have been assigned, and how many of those exhibitors have actually logged into the lead retrieval app itself. So just letting you know that, usually early on in the event, while the event is going on, how many exhibitors have actually signed in. Maybe they don't know how to sign in. Maybe they don't know how to, which app it is. So it may be something that you want to confront before they come to you after the event and say, hey, I wasn't able to use it. Now scrolling down also on our dashboard is our additional event information. You notice some of them I don't have filled out just because like the first one is attendance per session. I don't have any of my attendees actually signed into a session, but this would show you your sessions and your attendance per session. Same thing with room. And the same thing if I had users, usually staff, scanning attendees into sessions, this would actually show me which of those tracking devices are currently being used, at least in the past few minutes. Now, what I do have is I do have some check-in logs for today. So it is showing me the attendees that I've checked in today and at what time. I can see session evaluation, probably more so after your event, after the attendees have attended the sessions, they've completed the session evaluations. This is just a quick way of seeing what was your most popular, best ranked session versus maybe your worst ranked session as far as the attendee evaluations go. Also, Garrett had mentioned the social wall, where attendees can post pictures, ask questions, and engage with one another. It will actually show your most popular post, how many likes it has and comments, who it was by, and when it was. I also can see recent leads if you're using our lead retrieval system, as well as some of the shared resources, any type of images, documents that are being shared to your attendees. Okay. Just want to start off with the dashboard. Now we're going to get into some other analytics as well. So I'm actually going to go down to the analytics section here, and we're going to start with our attendee registration. So if you're using our registration, this is the only way you'll actually be able to see the registration analytics. So if you're running imports, you won't have access or you won't really see anything here. But if you're using our registration for both the attendee and the exhibitor registration, you're going to be able to see these analytics. And it'll give you things like the total number of registrations you have, and then a summary of how many chose each option. So for example, if you asked a question such as like meal preference, or you asked a question such as license type, or which days are you coming, or shirt size, any question that you ask on that registration form, you'll be able to see here. So you'll know how many different meal types you might need for your event, or you'll know how many different shirt sizes that you might need for your event. So it's a good way of looking at the registration numbers and helping you prepare for your event. The exhibitor is the same. Now the content information, Garrett kind of went over this in pretty good detail, but it's a great way of seeing, well, of the attendees that have registered or that are in the system, what pieces of content information maybe are we missing the most. So one thing I always tell my clients is that if you are going to be importing, or if you're going to be using our registration, either way, if there's information that you want from the attendee, whether maybe it's going on their badge, it's like title and company, or maybe if you're using our lead retrieval system and you want to make sure when the exhibitors scan their QR code, they're getting phone number and they're getting email and they're getting the correct contact info, you want to make sure that that information is required when registering. Now, I know that's not always the case. So a lot of times when you maybe aren't using our registration and you're importing your registrations, this is a good way to go in and look at the content information to say, okay, we have a lot of attendees that are missing phone number and we're using the lead retrieval system, and exhibitors are going to be upset when they scan and they don't get a phone number. So we may contact those attendees that are missing phone number to make sure that we get that information from them. Or again, like maybe we decide we want to add their title and company to the badge. and we come in here, we notice a lot of them are missing title and company, so it's just going to be blank on their badge. We may want to reach out to them and try to get that information before we go ahead and print out their badges. And the same thing goes for the certificate. If you want any of these fields to show up on the certificate, we want to make sure that's imported or it is was gathered during the registration process. So now we're going to get into attendance. And the first one is check-ins by date. So I'd mentioned there's a check-in process. This is uh, separate from the attendance to sessions. This is a way that you can check in attendees to your event. So this first one will actually show you, well, over your 3-day event, 4-day event, how many attendees checked in on each day. And we also can see visits by date. Now, visits is going to be your session tracking. So how many scans, how many attendees came into sessions on which day of your event. Now, mine are all spread out because it's a demo account, so I'm not always having attendees sign in consecutive days. You can kind of see it'll tell you on which day and how many attendees signed in on that specific day. There is a table behind each one as well, so you can actually see how many logs you had on each day. I know I'm missing a bunch of data here, but it'll show you for each of those days that I didn't have any attendance going on. But I can see of the days that attendees came in and came to sessions, how many there were. Now, if we scroll down, same thing of visits by room. It's just kind of let you know, like maybe of your breakout rooms where your breakout sessions are happening, what does your attendance look like? And again, we can do the same thing, or we can look at the table for the actual numbers behind it, or if you just hover over it, it'll tell you. And then probably one of the more important analytics to look at the attendance analytics would be your attendance per session. So as Garrett mentioned, it's showing you your most popular and least popular session at your event. So knowing maybe there's a session that you should offer more of, or maybe next year you put it in a bigger room because you filled up the capacity of that room for that session, or maybe a session that didn't really get any attendance. Maybe okay, that's not a good title or a good topic to maybe have next year, or maybe a session that's so popular you offer it twice during the event on different days. So it's always good to kind of look at what did attendees, at least as far as the title and the description and maybe who the presenter was, which ones did they uh, go to the most. I think we have a couple more down here. Your visits by time of day. So this is your sign-ins to sessions. So scanning our attendees into the sessions for session attendance, and it will tell us when were attendees scanned the most. So it looks like 10 a.m. With 213 scans happened at 10 a.m. during our event. And then again, if you are using our lead retrieval system, this does also tell you the top 50 companies by number of leads. So it'll show us which companies were using the lead retrieval system and then how many leads did they capture at the event. Also great information if you maybe next year you really want to promote the lead retrieval system or promote exhibitors coming to your event, and you can say, well, on average, our exhibitors got this many leads, or our top exhibitor got 73 leads, which may sound like a lot for some events. So this is, again, a great tool to kind of use for next year, just kind of knowing how many leads exhibitors were capturing, maybe an average number of leads they're capturing to help promote maybe to some new exhibitors and sponsors. All right, so we're going to get into the social activity. So I feel like these analytics aren't used as much, but I think they can be very beneficial because attendee engagement is very important. Obviously, we want to make sure that attendees are staying engaged. Obviously, that they're having a good time and they're getting whatever they need to out of your event. Now, I don't do a ton of social interactions in my demo account, but you can see it'll tell you on which day you had how many interactions. So this would be things like social wall posts. You can actually see here on the right side. If I go to my social wall, Adam posted a picture 3 months ago. So let's just pretend my event was 3 months ago. It may have gotten some likes, some comments. These would be those interactions. So we're capturing all the interactions that are happening through the social wall at your event. So you can see, well, which day got the most interactions. Same thing with interactions by time of day. So you can see, well, which time of day were your attendees more active? Probably before lunch, and maybe after lunch they had they had a crash and they weren't really wanting to talk to anybody. But we can see it on a per hour. Also, Garrett had mentioned the trending sessions. So aside from the attendance per session, this will show you, well, how many attendees were engaging the most in the social wall of that specific session. So we can see how to present virtual conference using Zoom had 7 posts. So it was the most trending session as far as engagement goes through the social wall. And scrolling on down, it also lets you know your bookmarked or views per session. So this can be very telling, especially maybe even before your event. You know, the attendee has gotten into the session, they started bookmarking which sessions they plan to go to. This gives you a good idea of how many attendees to expect at that session, or how many are actually viewing each session, which presenter, title, or description got the attention of the most attendees, and they clicked on it to view more information about it. Same thing with bookmarks per exhibitor. As attendees are going through the attendee app or the portal, they see all your exhibitors, they click on them. We can see the views in that case, or if they go ahead and bookmark them, we can see those exhibitors got bookmarked the most. We also can do some things like showing the number of times a user was bookmarked, or likes per user as well. So we can actually see the likes per user shows the number of likes users received by their posts, uploads, comments, and etc. So we can actually again see which ones are the most active or are getting the most engagement out of our event. And I know we have also trending users and most active users as well. And some of our clients would actually use the engagement ranking, which I'll go over in a second, or like the most active users as a way for gamification, right? If you set up your gamification, you can use the engagement ranking, determine how many points an attendee gets for, posting or making a post, liking a post, commenting on a post, and you can offer some type of prize or enter them into a raffle for maybe the top 10 engaged attendees, or you could use just the most active users to see which ones have the most number of interactions. Now it should typically be the same person. So both mine is Adam with most interactions and also Adam with the highest score. But these again could be ways that you can use our attendee app for gamification to maybe increase the engagement. All right, 2 more on the analytics here. We have our leads analytics. Obviously, you have to be using our lead retrieval system to see this, but these are great analytics. Kind of goes along with what I mentioned earlier. You're able to look at this data and use it possibly as marketing material for your next event to try to get more sponsors, more exhibitors to come, more to use the lead retrieval system. So it just gives you basics like how many companies use the lead retrieval system, how many total attendees do you have. The nice one would be things like, well, how many leads were generated by your lead retrieval system at your event? So 116 leads were captured at your event across the number of 9 companies that were using the lead retrieval system. But we also can see an average number of leads per exhibitor being almost 13 leads per exhibitor. So again, this could be great information to let your other exhibitors or sponsors that you're trying to get to come to your event to say, hey, on average, we get 30, 40, 50 leads, which is probably more of a accurate average number. And then we get into our session evaluations. So just a great way to look at your sessions and how your attendees ranked those individual sessions. This session obviously wasn't a very, very good one, but we can see some better ones down here. And we can do this for our not only our session evaluations, but the surveys that attendees complete. We can also do this for the polls they complete during the event as well. And these are just the summaries. You can also, I think it's up in attendees and session evaluations. You can actually, that's what this is, the summary report, but you also can go into like the evaluations by session, which is a more detailed report, or you can look into the analytics here as well, and get some different perspective on the information. So number of respondents, average scores per session. And this, again, this is for the session evaluations. All right, so I'm going to get into the attendee attendance next. So we're going to go into our attendees, and I know if you've used Conference Tracker before, you probably have seen this. This might be more so for our newer users. But if we go into our manage our attendees, let's say Adam calls in and says, "Hey, I should have gotten more credit than I did on my certificate," or "Can you check this attendance for me?" You're going to be able to go to the individual attendee and view their attendance, and this will tell us things like which sessions did Adam go to, how many minutes did Adam stay in the session, or what the percentage per session was, whether Adam earned credit for that session, and if you have a session evaluation set up, did Adam complete the session eval for that session? Now, just to add on to the session evaluation, when you're sending out certificates, so if you are a conference that offers like some type of continuing education or professional development, you can actually set a requirement that the attendee has to complete the session evaluation to get credit for the session, which is why we added it here. So for example, if the attendee actually went to the session and stayed long enough, but maybe didn't get credit, I can see, well, did they complete the session evaluation if it was a requirement, and when did they complete it? And while you're in here, you can actually click on the session itself, and it will tell you Adam's exact sign in and or out time if there was an out for that session. So this could be a way that you can actually fix some of those logs as well if you needed to go back into view the attendance. Now, the other things that we can see here, kind of how Garrett had mentioned, would be things like how many sessions did Adam go to, how many credits were earned, average time in minutes, and average percentage. Now, the average time in minutes is probably really long because I was doing virtual sessions with this attendee. So he actually has a very high average because I kept him in a virtual session for very long periods of time. But we can see all this again on an individual attendee basis. Now, we also can see this at the session. If you go to conference and sessions, you can look at any specific session. So hopefully I pick a good one. Let's do this one here. Let's say I want to view details, and it will tell me, well, for this session, which attendees came. So we have Jenny, we have two Nicks, Charlene, and Adam all came to the session. Again, I can see the minutes they were in the session and the percentage they stayed, as well as over here just telling me how many attended, your average minutes attendees have stayed, and percentage as well. Now, something else to point out for the session attendance is if you were doing session registration, if we had attendees registering to individual sessions during the registration process, or if you imported which attendees are going to which session, you can actually get an absentee report. So, for example, if we'll actually look at it. Let's say Darius registered to your event, saw the list of sessions, chose which sessions Darius would like to go to. But then when Darius got to the event, decided to go maybe to a different session or didn't show up for that session at all. We're able to see who registered to this session but did not sign into that session. All right, and that actually completes it for our analytics and reporting. Now, a lot of the data you can see in the exports as well. There's a lot of exports. Probably gonna have to make a whole nother Tech Tuesday for just the exports themselves. I think there's like 40 something exports. But I'm gonna actually hand it back over to Garrett, who's going to close us out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Chad. And of course, we want to thank everyone for joining us, but now we're going to open it up to our Q&A portion. So if anybody has any questions, if you haven't already typed them in chat, feel free to do so now. And of course, we'll answer those live. I did have one question here from during our presentation that said that this event has to report their attendance directly to their accrediting body. So how can they get their attendance from the session analytics page that we were looking at? And it's not quite going to be on the analytics page. You're actually going to want to step into the exports like Chad was talking about. And we do have a few different options for attendance. It depends on, what requirements your accrediting body is looking for. But we do have them grouped in detail. We have just general attendance logs exports, and then of course we have them grouped by attendee as well. Of course, if you need any help with your exports or submitting this accreditation documents, feel free to shoot an email to support conftrack@engineerica.com, that email right there on screen, and we can meet online and figure that out together. Any other questions for today? Let's see here. I think that about wraps it for today, Chad.
Yeah, I think the attendance, and we apologize, the attendance is down a little bit today because we had an issue with our registration link this week. But I think we should be good to go now. Really appreciate you all joining us today. If you do have any questions, you can always email comptrack@engineerica.com. Garrett or one of our support reps will get back in touch with you. If you want to schedule a demo or you have any sales related, you're ready to renew, you're ready to move forward with us, you can always contact myself at chadb@engineerica.com.
Absolutely. Well, with that, like I said, we want to thank everyone for coming, and we'll see you next month, third Tuesday at 1 p.m., same time, same place.